Welcome to Papillion Unscripted. I'm Michael Severe, the place to go to talk to people who truly make Papillion feel like home. The Chiefs are joining us today. Of course, we have the Fire Chief, Bill Bowes, and we have the Police Chief, Chris Whitted, joining us. I know it's during Papillion Days, really busy. We really appreciate you guys' time.
Oh, it's great to be here with you.
Well, we appreciate
Thank
you coming
you.
on.
Appreciate it, yeah.
Because of tenure, you said age, beauty thing, but because of tenure, we'll start with you, Chief.
Perfect.
So I know you worked at Omaha. You've been here a long time. Kind of tell your a story how you became Police Chief here and how long ago it was, and just kind of go over that for us.
16 years now.
Wow.
Just over 16 years. Hard to believe. I was a battalion chief in Omaha when the Papillion fire chief job opened up. I thought, I'll give it a shot. I'll go through the process just out of interest. And sure enough, did well and got to the final three to the mayor's interview, and he wanted to hire me. And I thought, oh my gosh, I have to make a hard decision now because I was a good 4 years away from retirement in Omaha.
Wow.
So I left early there. Actually took a little bit of a pay cut to come here. That was a hard thing to sell my wife on.
I know the feeling.
They made the offer on a Friday. I said, can I let you know Monday? And it took me till late Sunday night before I convinced her that it really was a good idea.
Yeah.
But it's been a great move. It's such a great community to be involved in, work with great people. It's been a real blessing for the last 16 years.
When I met you, Chris, I think you had just become lieutenant back in like 2006.
Yeah, just about a year
Yeah.
or so.
You're kind of a newbie as chief of police compared to Bill. Kind of, how did you get from the point where I know you were in the military as a reservist and get to the point of being chief of police?
Well, unlike Bill, I was started here.
Yeah.
Graduated from Nebraska Law with a degree in criminal justice, and came on pretty much right after school, got out, did a small stint at Boys Town, and then ended here. Could have went federal at some point, but just stuck around. This was my hometown, and this is where I wanted to be. This was where I wanted to work. And like Bill, it's been the best move I ever made. I started in '93. Been here for 28 some years now. Worked every position: investigations, narcotics, police, sergeant, lieutenant, deputy chief, and now chief. So to see the growth, not only in the city but the department. So many changes in our community. But the thing that has always been evident from the beginning until now is just the love of this city, and that other employees share that. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to make just this the best place they can. So I feel real fortunate.
You mentioned the growth. You guys have 4 stations.
Right.
Right. Eventually, they're saying we're going to have between 75,000 and 90,000 people in Papillion when you add the SIDs in and all the new construction and development. What do we need to do to be ready for that in the future?
We are doing a lot of planning for the future now. Right now we have 4 stations, 2 in Papillion, 2 in La Vista. Our long-term plan will probably reach our maximum at 7 stations, potentially 8, depending on what happens kind of on the eastern end of our fire district. So it's hard to believe. When I started 16 years ago, we had 1 station.
Wow.
Now we're at 4. Eventually, in 30 more years, probably there'll be 7 stations. Just unbelievable growth. Great to be a part of. I was going to ask you, how many officers were on the department when you started?
I think there were 15 when I came on in '93.
And how many now?
And now we have 47.
Yeah. And you have 67 personnel?
Right.
Right? And you would be over 100 if you're going to have 7 stations, right? Eventually.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah.
We'll be at 75 to 100, somewhere in between there, probably easily, if you have that many citizens.
And for you, that building is already kind of, you already busted
we'll have to make some changes to that building to prepare for that. We're also prepared. We've already prepared for that in other ways. We've reconfigured our districts as well as the call signs that we use. So we theoretically can build out to 10 officers per district per shift. So you've got 4 districts, we can have 40 officers. So, the system now is in place to grow to whatever would be needed.
One of the great ideas that Chief Whitted had, we were planning for our 5th fire station out 132nd and 370 in that general area. And Chief Whitted came and said, hey, what about making part of that fire station essentially a small police precinct to where the officers out west can go download their video, do the paperwork, computer work, and things like that. I thought that's a great idea because it'll be a great location for them. Potentially a great location for La Vista Police, since we work with La Vista as well. So that was a terrific idea to come up with, and
It's probably unique too in the country. I'm trying to picture it in my head. I can't remember that anywhere else.
Yeah,
Because you
there
guys don't normally get along, right?
Yeah,
You fight and
you
stuff.
know.
So,
Yeah.
but that's kind of cool to have the
we banter,
cooperation.
but we
yeah.
banter, but
We
we
love to
each
send
other.
them in first.
That is true. They're good to go in first. That is funny.
We just got to make sure they follow behind us.
Yeah.
That's the
yeah.
hard part. We've got to
True.
pull them behind us.
Yeah.
Furthermore on that, what's equally impressive, well, I don't know if you've driven out, I mean, we're out to 144th now.
Oh yeah.
You're not getting back into the middle of Papillion real quickly during rush hour on 370.
Very
I
true.
mean,
Yeah.
it's
Especially
a long
if you hit
time.
every single light. Yeah.
Yeah, so having at least, whether it's a precinct, whether it's just a way station, so to speak, whatever it is, but as we grow further west, we're gonna need to have amenities that you can stop in, get something to eat, do a report, change out batteries for your radio, whatever it might be. So I think it has great potential for a lot of different things.
Let's stick with you. On Papillion Vision, we have something called Policing with Pride. That is you guys' motto.
Yeah.
I asked this to all your officers. I ask you, what does Policing with Pride mean to you?
Policing with pride has to be innate in the individual. You have to first and foremost care about yourself and the product. This is my coaching speak, but putting on the field. If you're not empathetic, if you're not concerned with the image that you're not only professing for the city and the department, but policing in general. We all have seen what can happen. I mean, we're all kind of one, even though we're in different states and different departments. What one officer does 800 miles away matters to the rest of the country. So you always have to keep that in mind. So I think with Policing with Pride, especially for the Papillion Police Department, you have to be somebody that's empathetic. You have to be somebody that can put themselves in somebody else's shoes. We still have to go out. We still have to be the police. We still have to make arrests. We still have to keep people safe. But you can do it in the right way. And that's really, for me, the importance of what that means.
We end up calling you guys a series PFD Always Ready because it just fits. I mean, may not always know what you're going to get when you go there, but you have to be ready to go. Can you kind of talk about what that is like?
Right, we had called out to anything from a structure fire to somebody having a heart attack to a dog
Cat in a
stuck
tree.
in a fence.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
cat
exactly.
in a tree. We've moved away from the cat in the trees.
Yeah.
Now we've had a couple dogs stuck in fences. They'll
Gotcha.
stick their head through the
Sure,
slats and
yeah.
get stuck. So the variety is wonderful in a way because we never know what we're going to see. But at the same time, it forces us to be ready for anything and everything. The way we summarize it is when somebody's got a problem, they don't know what to do, they'll call the fire department.
Yes.
Obviously, if it's a legal matter, they call police. If it's kind of anything else, they'll call us. And our goal is to take care of their problem, at a minimum, not let that problem get any worse.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember we were the first time we put the child seat in the car. Wasn't quite sure it was, and right near me is a unit, a 23, I believe, in Omaha. I drove over there, and I'm like, I'm not sure I get this in right, and they helped me put it in.
We do that.
Yeah, and you
We
do that too.
yeah.
And I know State Patrol does it. It's just something to always be there, so citizens know if they need some help, they
Right.
can come to you guys.
Right.
And
Yeah,
that's
we-
policing with pride, doing that
Right.
extra, going above and beyond, that
Right, that's a good
value
way of
added,
saying it,
that
yeah.
value added service.
Yeah.
In order for all this to work right, obviously your staffing, your personnel have to be up top notch. You 3 new firefighters over the last couple of years. I know 2, not
Right.
years, 2, and then 1 was still in service, right?
Right.
So you have 3, and you have 2 new officers that just
Well,
recently.
we have 4.
4.
We have 2 that just graduated from the
Right.
academy. They're now in their FDO training, and then we have 2 additional now that are start Monday.
Oh, wow.
And will report to the academy on July 5th.
Well, let's talk recruiting. How has that been? Everybody knows it's hard to find people right now. How have you guys done?
I've said this in the past, and I'll say it again. I feel really confident with the candidates that we're getting and the excellent individuals that are putting their name in the hat, so to speak, to come to our department. Fortunately, we don't have to hire 5, 6, 7, or 8 at a time,
Sure.
or more. We're hiring 1 or 2. And so, despite the candidate pool being significantly decreased, when I was hired, there were like 430 that I tested in for 2 or 3 positions in 1992. I think our last test, we had 17 or 18 that after the backgrounds that went forward to that civil service interview. So that's an incredible drop in numbers. But even with that, I still feel real good about the candidates we're getting. And I couldn't be happier with the most recent 4 that we've hired. I think they're all going to do an amazing job for the city and the citizens of Papillion. And so, yeah.
What about for you guys?
We've been very fortunate. The staffing crisis hasn't really hit us, I'll say yet, because I think at some point it will. Typically, we'll get 100 to 120 people apply for our positions. We'll hire anywhere from 1 to maybe half a dozen at a time. And the quality of the candidates we get is very good. They are, I call them all kids anymore. But,
Yeah.
but generally, they're anywhere from 21 to late 30s, really. People who are looking to get into the fire service. Many of them have volunteer firefighter backgrounds, which is terrific, great experience to build on. So we've really been very fortunate when it comes to being able to find really good people.
Obviously, both your jobs are stressful, right? I mean, you have a lot of people working underneath you, there's responsibilities to the city. I know you've had a tough last 3 years or so, losing your wife, then kind of trying to figure out how to start over. Can you kind of walk us through how you've dealt with that, and who's helped you cope with all of this?
Sure. If we go back to, say, 2.5 years ago, right now, mid-January of 2020, we're hearing this stuff about this new coronavirus.
Yeah.
It seems like every day new information was coming out, so we're trying to keep up with that in our policies and our procedures. How do we keep our staff safe so they can respond to the emergency calls? Just information was just flowing like crazy.
Wow, yeah.
And then by mid-March, we felt pretty comfortable with where we were. And one morning I was on a Zoom meeting, because we resorted to Zoom by that time, with our 4 fire stations, and my late wife called and said she was having trouble breathing. I just left immediately. Later on, the crews that were on the Zoom meeting said, we have no idea where you left, because I just took off. 30 minutes later, she was gone.
Oh, yeah.
And just a blood clot that broke loose, got stuck in her lung, and that was it. Terrible time for the family. Add on COVID, the stress that everybody felt related to that, because our world changed. And then not only did our family's outside world change with COVID and everything we had to do differently, but our inside world changed, because I had lost my wife, my kids had lost their mom, my in-laws had lost their daughter. Terrible thing to go through. There were a couple of people who had lost spouses that reached out to me that were really helpful. I often tell people, after the fog cleared, the first couple months were just fog. Had no idea what was going on. I don't have a lot of memory of that time. I got to the point where grief books were good. And I read through a handful of grieving books that really helped a lot. And then in the fall of that year, I discovered a group called Grief Share, a national organization that has 13-week-long grieving classes, and went through that, and oh my gosh, that was just so much help on top of friends and family. It's really interesting in a difficult time like that, where some people will kind of shy away because they're not sure what to say, they don't want to make you feel bad. But getting with a group of people in a grief share class, most of whom who lost their spouses within the last year and a half. So having that bond with that group was very important, to know that I'm not alone in going through this. There are other people feeling the same way I am. And it's interesting in grieving that generally the process is the same, but it's different for each person, very different for each person. And there are certainly highs and lows. And so went through a grieving process, had some close friends that helped me through as well, a lot of family. And then late that year, Debbie passed away in March of 20. In December of 20, I tell people I grieved intentionally. I didn't try to hide from the grieving, I just went with it. If I felt like crying, I cried. You know, if I felt like being alone, I felt like I just got by myself. By December, I was really doing pretty well, realized that there's no end to this grieving stuff. It's a lifetime. I will always miss Debbie.
Carry it with you.
Yeah. And then late December, I was introduced to a woman just through mutual friends, and holy cow, my world changed again. Wasn't expecting, wasn't looking, but all of a sudden, I discovered I could love Debbie and I love Julie. How is that possible? But it's a beautiful thing. And Julie and I got married in the summer of 21 and just had our first anniversary last week, and it is wonderful.
That's an amazing story. We really appreciate you telling us.
Thanks.
That was hard. That was hard for all of us on the staff,
I
because
can imagine.
you know, you want to help, and you don't always know how. Someone close to you or a close coworker has something significant like that. You know, we had something similar on the police department.
I think it helps that you guys, it's a fraternity, right?
Yes.
It's different.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nobody really knows what you guys go through except yourselves, right? You can be a firefighter, be a police officer. You have a great outlet in your kids and your coaching.
Yeah.
I think the first thing I knew about you was you coaching your kids
Yeah.
before I knew about anything else being a police officer. How does that help you in terms of the job and the stresses to be able to have that as an outlet?
He takes it out of the kids.
That's good coaching,
I got to think about that. I hope that's not true, but maybe it is. People have to remember that police officers, we're human.
Right.
We feel the same, we bleed the same, we have the same trials and tribulations that everyone else has.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I think when you wear a badge, you're in a car, you have the authority that you do. Maybe somebody misuses that authority on occasion, and you're all wearing that heavy badge
Right.
that you feel that the aura of that. So it's just an outlet for me. I've coached since I played football at Nebraska Omaha, was there for 5 years. And then upon graduation in '92, I just missed the heck out of it. I was like, man, I just loved football. That's what I wanted to do. So I approached former coach Gene Sir and said, hey, I'd love to volunteer, assist. And he says, absolutely, welcome me on. So I did that for 5 years, and then after that, I coached for Polino. I took my head coach of my own 6th, 7th grade team, and did that. I mean, I'm coaching other kids. I don't even have kids yet.
Right.
And then I had my first son, and when he got to be that age, then I started to coach him, and now it's continued with my second son. And just it's just something that for me was that outlet. You could kind of put this on the back burner, forget about it for a few hours,
Yeah.
and be involved in a game that you love. So I think that people should understand that we all want what's best for our families as well as theirs from a policing perspective.
You referenced something about how when I was a kid growing up, the police were, I wanted to be a police officer, right? That's what kids wanted to do. Now, because of some things that have happened over the years, it puts you in a difficult situation. I think you guys have done a great job of addressing that and challenging it. But what is the biggest challenge to try to, again, make people understand that the police are there for them, that you are supportive of them?
Man, that's it. That's the million-dollar question. I think the first part of just policing in general is good mental health. I think with Bill's situation, for instance, he wasn't afraid to seek out mental health and assistance and finding camaraderie amongst shared pain. For policing, and this is something maybe we'll talk about with the First Responders Foundation, they're really big on mental health. We've started our own Papillion chapter. So we have to, as a society in general, we have to recognize that mental health is a concern for everyone, that you shouldn't run from it, that you can face it. It's not a stigma. If you need assistance, everyone needs assistance at some point in their life. So we have to be able to provide that. The First Responders Foundation does that with mental health professionals. But we have to do a better job of recognizing when officers, or even firemen for that matter, are struggling. If a police officer is in a bad state, a use of force situation may go too far. If a firefighter is in a bad state, he may not recognize something occurring and people get hurt. Maybe the hose doesn't get fitted. So it matters. And again, not just our jobs, but every job. So I think the mental health piece is something we need to continue to expound upon in first responder positions. Moreover, with respect to what you talked about, people just need to understand again that police are asked to do so many different things. We wear multiple hats. We're a counselor, we're a warrior, we're a guardian, we're a teacher, we're an educator, all those different things. We're a mediator, we're a psychologist given a call, and that's a lot of things to put on one individual. So,
you guys see such horrible, both groups see, but you see people at their worst. You see people, you're doing CPR on them. How do you guys make sure that the person is mentally ready after seeing some of the horrible things you have to see?
Our first step in the process is the crew taking care of themselves, the people on that call, talking through the call. Oftentimes it's very informally, just naturally. After call's finished up, they'll talk about what they did, what each person saw. It's interesting with, say, 6 firefighters on a call.
Right.
CPR is a great example. Everybody is doing their job, and the captain is overseeing everything. And when they sit down and talk about it, the person in control of the airway didn't realize this person was seeing this or doing this, and everybody's got that focus on what they're supposed to do. And then when they see the bigger picture, there's something relieving about that. They understand my role was very important in this bigger picture, and then they get to put everything together. We had an example a few months ago. There was a traffic accident that I happened to come across. I saw it happen off duty and stopped and helped, and a teenager was critically injured, and our paramedics did a great job of taking care of him, but they didn't see the big picture. They didn't see the damage to the vehicle. They couldn't figure out, based on how they approached the scene, how he was hurt so bad. And then later on, when the police officer showed him pictures, and oh gosh, now I really understand what went on, what the mechanism of injury was, and how he could be hurt so bad. So that talking through situations is great. About, I'll say 6 or 7 years ago, we had a small handful of people trained in peer support.
Oh, yeah.
So people went through a 40-hour class on here's how you draw somebody out, and here's what you can say and act towards them. So now our firefighters know that if a particular call, even a family circumstance is bothering them, they can go to one of these peer support members. And then on top of that, for specific incidences, the state has a critical incident stress management team that we can bring in and run the entire crew through. And then the First Responders Foundation with the mental health services they provide. Aside from that, there are a couple of counselors in the Omaha area who specialize in first responders. It's a very unique area. The city has an EAP program, as most companies do. And we found through experience that typically an EAP counselor doesn't have a lot of experience with first responders. So they don't understand that world. But if we can talk to somebody who understands our world, it makes a world of difference.
You both have chaplains, right? The Tri-City
Yes.
Police chaplains,
Yeah.
and you have fire. So they get used to understanding
Another resource,
it.
right.
I can understand that. A lot of serious topics we've gone over.
Yeah.
I'm gonna end though. I asked everybody this question. We cover all kinds of things in Papillion. We try to highlight as much as we can. But what's something through your course of events growing up here, knowing that maybe we don't highlight enough? What's something an event or a place that you look at and you go, oh, that place needs to be highlighted?
Tough question.
Man, that
I
is.
come with the tough questions
You
at the
do.
end.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
do.
It's funny, the one that people bring up the most is obviously the trail system is really
Yeah.
cool, and we've chatted about that during the half marathon. But Sumter, not everybody knows that so many free events. That's something that gets brought up all the
Yeah.
time. It's kind of cool that we have a place to go as cool as that, and a lot of it's free.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. The parks, I don't know what the ratio is of land use for parks, but Papillion has a lot of parks.
Oh, yeah.
Many of them now are interconnected with the trail system, which is really great. The lakes have been a terrific addition, Walnut Creek and
Oh, yeah.
Prairie Queen. When we drive by those and we see the people walking the trails, kayaking, oh my gosh, what great
The
opportunities
longest dog
they
park
are.
in the world. I mean, it's literally 100 yards from one end to the other. Your dog can't get enough exercise there. Your dog's got problems.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm just out Papillion in general. I mean, I grew up here, like I said. I moved
Yeah.
here from Omaha and when I was very young, 4 or 5. And the growth has just been incredible over that 40 years that I've been here. Or more than that now, 45. Jeez,
Yeah,
46.
don't date yourself. You're fine.
I know. And I think we just continue to add to the greatness that is Papillion. All of my neighbors around me are military or ex-military.
Oh, yeah.
And they stay. They're from Ohio, Michigan, Virginia, California, but they end up staying because of how great Papillion is, the shopping, the food. I mean, I have everything I need within 5 minutes of my house. And I think that's very special. And you can be in the country riding trails, or you can be at a mall or enjoying just some amazing restaurants that we have here.
All in a matter of 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How many retired military have you talked to who got assigned to off at kicking and screaming?
Yes.
Nebraska.
I wanna go to Nebraska.
Heard the story.
And they get here and they love it and they retire here. That says something.
No doubt. No
People
doubt.
have been all around the world.
And I think people need to realize that, I've worked here like Bill for a long time now, and people have come and gone, but we just continue as a Papillion staff, as city staff, continue to add just some of the best people that this community has to offer. I mean, I couldn't be happier with the people that we work.
One quick little story.
Yeah.
My oldest son and his wife had lived in Millard in a starter neighborhood. And a lot of kids and great, and as their 2 boys grew, they wanted to get into the Papillion Vista School District where my kids all went. and they bought a house across from Sumter. And after they'd been there, it was at least 6 months, probably a little bit longer than that. I asked Connor, who at the time was 12 years old, I said, Connor, how do you like the new neighborhood, the new area as opposed to where you were? Because they had a school a block down from their house, and millions of kids around. And he said, this is a 12-year-old, unprompted. I just really like it here, and it just feels like home. And this was before the tagline was developed. And I thought, holy cow, a 12-year-old is feeling this way about
That's awesome.
Papillion. That says a lot.
I've heard that from a neighbor.
Yeah.
That very phrase, again, before the tagline. So I think that's not only a reflection of the geography and what we have, but the reflection of the people that make it that way, not just the workers, but the citizens in general.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate both you guys and the jobs you do, and thank you very much for sitting in with us.
Yeah,
I know
thank you.
it's a very busy time. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Join us next time again when we speak to someone who truly helps make Papillion feel like home.